The World Bank has become the latest organisation to halt aid to Afghanistan after the Taliban seized control of the country. The financial institution says it's concerned about the country's development prospects, especially for women. The move follows similar announcements by the International Monetary Fund and many governments. And as Mobin Nasir reports, stopping aid could leave millions of Afghans facing starvation and severe economic hardships.
As thousands of Afghans try to flee the country, the Kabul airport is chock full of people, and price gougers are cashing in on their desperation.
One bottle of water is selling for $40 and a plate of rice for $100, and not Afghanis, but dollars. This is out of reach for common people.
The situation is hardly any better in the city's markets, where prices of food and other products have surged since the Taliban took over, making essential goods unaffordable for many.
14 million people in Afghanistan today are struggling to put food on the table. The price of wheat has gone up by 25% in the last months, and therefore, with the economic situation, with the difficulty of earning income, and with the turmoil in which the country has been thrown, it's very difficult now to see the future for this population, a future which is food secure and a future without malnourished children.
Many Afghans have depended on international donors for food, clothing and shelter, but that lifeline is all but exhausted. Among those boarding flights out of the country on Saturday was the staff of the World Bank. The development agency has invested about $5.3 billion in the country since 2002. The money was spent on farming projects, irrigation systems and roads. But now it's halting aid to the country, saying it's concerned over Afghanistan's development prospects. The International Monetary Fund, along with the US and other governments, have also pulled the plug on support for Afghans. Local traders say that's driving down the value of the local currency and fueling inflation.
Traders are bringing fewer commodities here because of the dollar price.
The Taliban has warned it will take strict action against market manipulators. It's also banned some exports like metal ores to increase supplies to Afghan companies. But decades of conflict have left the economy in shambles. Without an internationally recognized government, trade and aid flows are unlikely to improve, and that will only worsen the plight of millions of Afghans. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
For more, let's bring in Torek Farhadi in Geneva. He's a former advisor to the World Bank, International Monetary Fund and the Afghan government. Good to have you back on the program, Torek. As we heard, though, the World Bank, the latest international organisation to cut off funding to Afghanistan. The World Bank, in fact, had $5.3 billion earmarked for development projects in the country. What sort of an impact will this have on the economy?
Oscar, it is a punishment on the people of Afghanistan. For the first time, the World Bank finds itself in a very awkward situation. The World Bank ethos is to help the poor in the world, but by cutting off aid to Afghanistan at this point, it is depriving the people of Afghanistan from much needed lifeline at this point. The World Bank right now has a COVID program in Afghanistan. It is financing more than 2,000 clinics in Afghanistan. This financing will end, the salaries for the doctors will end, the supplies COVID-related will end, and the IMF as well has frozen its programs. The IMF had issued SDRs for all the poor and developing countries of the world. It has frozen that share of Afghanistan, and $9.5 billion of reserves of the Central Bank of Afghanistan are frozen in the United States. So here, this is not a punishment on Taliban, it's a punishment on the people of Afghanistan. The prices have gone up, the rents have, people don't have jobs, they can't pay their rents. The young people are totally depressed with what's going on, no prospects, and the world is leaving them behind, basically. One journalist was telling me that he doesn't even have money to top up his phone right now. This is the modern Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is a food importing country. It imports its food, it imports its medicine, it imports its fuel. It's surrounded by other countries. It's a landlocked country. Very strange that international financial institutions that are supposed to help the poor are put in a position to punish the poor here.
Yes.
We need to find solutions to get the transit of aid in Afghanistan alive, even if we don't recognize the Taliban government.
Yes, and it seems that organizations like the World Bank and IMF are adopting a wait-and-see approach when it comes to the Taliban. They're waiting to see exactly what sort of a government the Taliban would put in place, if its leaders will respect human rights, will respect women's rights. What does the Taliban need to do now to reassure these institutions that they are partners in which they can do business?
The Taliban must wake up. I'm afraid to speak like this, but in the war against the US and NATO, the Taliban always played time. They had all the time and they won because they have all the time, and the US and NATO, after 20 years, left. But in governing a country, when people go hungry, neither the Taliban, neither the World Bank has the luxury of playing the time game, because people are hungry. They don't have drinking water that they can afford. The Taliban need to form a government immediately. There is no reason to wait. In that government, they have to bring non-Taliban. They have to bring experts that can help Afghanistan. They have to bring women. That's the conditionality of the G7 countries. Yesterday, the G7 met, and they said, we want the Taliban to allow women to work, to go and study. Today, we had the entrance exams of universities in Afghanistan, where all the young people who are 18 years old take the exam to go to the university. The highest score was the one from a girl today. So I hope that this girl will have a university to attend under the Taliban.
Can I ask you about the central bank? We, on the program, featured the now exiled former head of the central bank, and in the meantime, the Taliban has appointed a rather obscure figure to head that institution, Mohammad Idris, who headed the Taliban's Economic Commission. What do you make of this appointment? Someone who doesn't really have a central banking or financial experience heading an organization like the country's central bank?
The Taliban has functioned as a militia. Now they have power. Now they want to divvy up the power structure with the people who were with them all along, and in their language took the sacrifices to fight. But governing again is a very heavy responsibility on the shoulder of even the Taliban, who say we have changed. In that case, even if they have appointed their figures, they have to call on experts and young Afghans who have training. The young Afghans have training they have received in the past 20 years to assist these people in the technicalities of these highly technical jobs in finance and central banking, and to connect Afghanistan back to the financial system. And otherwise, Afghanistan is going to suffer. The people will suffer.
Okay, Torek Farhadi, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you as always for sharing your analysis with us on Money Talks.